As I mentioned in some public statements last Wednesday, I spoke with our administration at the city and made it clear that we need to be taking immediate action on bolstering transit safety and deploying additional resources. As a municipal government, we are responsible for providing transit safety for Calgarians. Transit is an essential service at the core of any major city, and people should not have to think twice about using it. However, the incidents that we are seeing along our transit corridors in recent months are unlike the things that we have experienced in the past, and this is the case in cities across this country. The action that we are taking today is crucial to restoring not only safety but trust with Calgarians. I know there are many folks that are scared to use the train right now, and that is certainly not something that we can turn a blind eye to. Council has heard loud and clear that something more needs to be done. While as a municipality, we will continue to collaborate with other orders of government to address the root causes of violent behavior, the immediate steps that we are announcing today are a starting point. Let me lay out what we are doing. My council colleagues and I approved two important investments during budget deliberations in November. First, an additional boost of $20 million to Calgary Police Service, which enables them to hire more than 150 new officers. Second, $33 million in transit recovery, of which $11.2 million is now being deployed for transit safety initiatives that are currently underway. Things like more officers, better lighting, and better cleaning. Further, just a few short weeks ago, Council approved allocation of operational savings in the amount of $32 million to be used for transit system recovery. This is a total of $85 million in investments that has allowed Calgary Transit to work in an integrated manner with the Calgary Police Service. Both organizations have a tremendous amount of trust in each other, and this is the only way that we can establish safety on transit and restore the public's confidence. Additionally, the Calgary Police Service just last week successfully completed an undercover operation that addressed serious criminal issues on transit. We are taking an incredibly compassionate approach when it comes to people in positions of vulnerability. As Aaron and the Chief have both pointed out, we have many partner organizations that we work with to ensure that people are getting the supports that they need. But there is a criminal element involved here, and that is what we need to approach at this particular point in time. Is enforcement the only solution? Absolutely not. It has to be something that is done with collective organizations to ensure that we have public safety, but ramping up enforcement at this particular point in time is significant. Now, I'm going to conclude with an appeal to our partners at the provincial government. We cannot improve public safety on transit without their funding assistance. While the 12 sheriff pilot project was appreciated, it is neither a permanent nor comprehensive solution. And while we also appreciate the investments that have been made into mental health and addictions, we are at a point in time, as I've said, where additional enforcement resources are also needed. And to that end, I am respectfully requesting two things from the provincial government. Firstly, reinstate the full municipal proportion of Calgary Police Service ticket fine revenue that was taken away from us in 2019. By keeping a greater percentage of fine revenue for provincial coffers, Council has been covering a $10 million shortfall for the past few years, and that's a burden that ultimately falls onto Calgary taxpayers. Next, adjust the municipal policing support grant for inflation and population growth. This has not been done over the life of the grant, and municipalities and their citizens are suffering as a result. We need a policing support grant that is respectful of our current situation. We are not adverse to stepping up with our own municipal funds, and we have done that very clearly, but we can't do this alone, so we are requesting provincial support.
While we know this issue is felt by other Canadian municipalities experiencing similar increased social disorder on their transit systems, the fact that we are not alone does not take away the concerns for our riders, residents, or for others working or taking Calgary Transit to make it safer. As the chief that oversees Calgary Transit safety, I want people in Calgary to know that transit safety is what we do. We have an amazing and committed team of peace officers, security guards, ambassadors, drivers, and operators who put themselves out there every day to ensure rider safety. We know it's a critical role that our transit plays in the lives of Calgarians. It's how we get to work, how we get to school, to be with our friends and loved ones, and to get to their appointments and other activities. We are committed to not only transit safety for our riders, but to ensure transit drivers, peace officers, and our staff feel safe as well. Today, we are announcing an immediate action plan to help address the concerns on our transit system. A combination of more public safety presence on our system, crime prevention through environmental design changes, and increase riders' feeling of safety and confidence while taking transit. Our immediate actions, beginning tomorrow, April 4th, will be immediately doubling our contracted security guards on the transit system from 8 to 16, with a goal of tripling those security guards by the end of the month to 24. We won't have every station covered with security guards, but it'll increase the amount of stations that we can deploy security guards to based on the priorities of concern in the area. We'll be increasing our overnight patrols with our partners with Calgary Police Service and community peace officers from 4 nights a week to 7 nights a week. We recognize that success with transit safety will be accomplished through an integrative and collaborative approach with our partners like CPS. We are also redeploying peace officers from other operational areas to assist with high areas of concern. We'll be continuing to evaluate our needs of safety-focused staff, and we'll be engaging council and mayor regarding further investments in the coming months. When we observe suspicious behavior in gatherings that could escalate into violence, we proactively dispatch resources to increase our uniformed presence at that location. We also recognize the way that we design, maintain, and run our facilities can have an impact on crime prevention and the perception of safety. And we have made some immediate changes in that regard. This includes running announcements on our train stations that they're under surveillance and for only transit users. Effective immediately, we'll be increasing our C-train station cleaning and have created a rapid response group that will repair infrastructure damage to vandalism or other causes immediately. Additionally, we'll be removing benches in identified areas as no waiting zones. We recognize that this is an inconvenience for riders, including for people who suffer from mobility issues, but we believe that it will have an impact on loitering in our areas. Building on what we've done so far, we believe in the combination of added public safety presence on our system, combined with the environmental change, and it will help complement the work that we're already doing. The $5.9 million in emergency funding that was received from the mayor and council in July granted us 28 additional community peace officers on the transit system. 14 of those officers are already deployed on our transit system currently, and the additional 14 that are remaining will be graduating at the end of May. That funding also allowed us to hire 31 transit security guards. We currently have 17 remaining to be hired, and they will be deployed by the end of May. We also have 6 teams of Calgary ambassador teams on duty from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. Monday through Friday to assist with wayfinding and to support riders with any questions they might have, and an additional presence on the transit system. We are seeing more than 60,000 calls of service each year to our peace officers. By adding these additional resources like peace officers and security, we can ensure that we have the right resource taking care of the right types of concerns, with the ultimate goal of allowing our police officers to focus on policing criminal activity in our communities. We've increased our CCTV surveillance, upgraded lighting on the C-Train platform, which allows our cameras to capture clear footage on a platform and more visibility across the transit system. It's important that we balance compassion with enforcement. Not all the issues on the transit system can be solved through enforcement actions. These are some of these people that are accessing our transit system. Some need more help than enforcement. So every day our peace officers are working with our social partners to create connections for our vulnerable population. We have an incredible community outreach team who partners with the Alpha House, and they serve more than 300 Calgarians each month, arranging things such as food hampers, detox, treatment, or sustainable housing solutions. This not only helps the individuals in the moment, but it also reduces the load on our emergency services across the city. It is not a crime to be unhoused, but to have the addictions and the mental health support is important for our vulnerable population. However, violence and illegal behavior will not be tolerated, and Calgary Police Service and transit peace officers continue to work together to address these behaviors. So we ask the Calgarians report their concerns. We want them to know that they're not riding alone. If you see something, we're asking you to text our text line at 74100 to notify us of any concerns that you might see on the transit system. But I also want to stress that if you're seeing something that is an emergency in nature, please dial 911. And so our way forward, our commitment, As I want to leave by closing that Calgary Transit will continue to be a top priority for us. We'll continue to be innovative in how we provide our service. No single agency can solve this alone. We will continue to work together to bring forward innovative strategies to deal with this very complex problem and deploying our safety resources in an innovative, collaborative, integrated way with our partners like Calgary Police Service. Our focus must be resolving these issues, not just displacing them into our community. We recognize that if we remove these issues from our transit system, they will end up in our community, so it is a collaborative effort. We believe in success is in collaboration, and we are proud to partner with partners like Calgary Police Service and the work that they're currently doing.
So as we've heard, transit infrastructure is important in large cities, and that is all very well understood here in Calgary. All of the good things that we depend on transit to do, mobility, efficiency, and economics, are all predicated on those spaces being safe and feeling safe to those who rely on them from day to day. And as we've moved from pandemic to endemic, we've all heard and seen the troubling behavior that has been taking place on transit here in Calgary, across Canada, and even further beyond in urban settings. As you've heard throughout 2022 and into 2023, much has been done in an effort to restore order on our transit infrastructure. From a CPS perspective, that includes extensive and ongoing proactive patrols, joint operations with transit peace officers, as you heard, in all districts, as well as covert undercover operations, which has resulted in dozens of people facing hundreds of charges for drug trafficking, possession of weapons, and assaults. In spite of these efforts, we continue to hear from Calgarians who use transit, from transit operators themselves, from businesses, from city councillors, and from police and peace officers who are on the ground that the problem persists and that more needs to be done. An analysis of crime and call data confirms that despite significant efforts, we're still experiencing increasing levels of violence, property crime, and disorder on our transit properties. Just quickly in terms of stats, in the first quarter of 2023, assaults on transit have risen month over month. In January, there were 26. In February, it was 32. In March, it was 41 for a total of 99. If you think about that over the first quarter, that's an average of approximately one assault or incident per day on our transit property. Interestingly, nearly 10% of these were actually assaults on peace officers, the majority being transit officers. As it relates to weapons on transit, we've seen the numbers rising in quarter one as well. 2023, quarter one, we've seen 6 in January. We were up to 9 in February, and in March there were 11 for a total of 26. As a result of the most recent undercover operation on transit, our officers seized various types of drugs. You guys, it was a veritable pharmacy on transit. And we're not talking about individuals who had amounts consistent with personal use. We're talking about large quantities of drugs with high street values. But moreover, the weapons that were seized. Along with the drugs, we seized 21 knives, 2 machetes, 2 hatchets, 1 can of bear spray, a BB gun, 1 airsoft pistol, and 1 potentially real firearm, the status of which we're awaiting to confirm through testing. A permissive environment was unavoidably created during the COVID-19 pandemic as a result of reduced enforcement activity owing to court closures and system-wide efforts that were done to reduce exposure to COVID-19. That would include things like less arrests, more people granted bail who may not otherwise have been, as well as sentenced offenders being released from custody early in order to keep them safe. Vulnerable citizens left shelters and other facilities to social distance and increase personal safety during the pandemic. Some of these individuals have migrated to transit and other public spaces at a time when the ordinary uses in those spaces were diminished or ridership in the case of transit was significantly reduced. Post-pandemic, there has been an emphasis, appropriately, on compassionate efforts to connect vulnerable citizens to services and supports wherever possible. We are now seeing, though, that there's a significant portion of those who are improperly using transit and other public spaces who have become entrenched. Many are displaying resistance to offers of service and supports, and as well, there's reduced cooperation and compliance with authority figures on transit. We have reached a point where enhanced enforcement intervention is required. This, so all Calgarians can safely and confidently access these resources for the uses that were intended. Our officers and our city partners have been leading with compassion and services and will continue to do so where that's appropriate. But our expectation is that public spaces will remain safe and inviting. And anybody who jeopardizes that safety or people's feelings of security will be dealt with in accordance with municipal, provincial, and criminal law as the circumstances dictate. At this point, our officers have been targeting the most serious offenders and the most serious offenses in the most problem areas based on the data and based on what we're hearing. We now must address the day-to-day behaviors and conditions that are leading to conflict, crime, and violence in our public spaces. That includes the littering, the loitering, the open drug possession, the public intoxication, the panhandling, the causing a disturbance, the types of general disorder offenses that we currently see in our public spaces, but wish we did not. To the public, I want you to know that if you see a police or peace officers interacting with individuals in public spaces, we do continue to lead with supports and compassion where it's accepted. But we will be aiming, and we will continue to aim, for diversion and voluntary compliance. But if advice and the direction of our officers is not followed, they have been instructed to take appropriate enforcement action. Our officers have a difficult job to do here. They will not tolerate inappropriate or unlawful behavior. They will take action, including enforcement where appropriate, and they will be supported in using policing authorities to address this serious public safety issue. We have asked them to take steps necessary to make public spaces safe once again. We encourage you to support them in these efforts as well.